Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Tuesdays with Tabitha. This is your weekly live show helping you resolve conflict in the workplace. I'm your host, Tabitha, and today we are talking about the secret ingredient to improving confidence and cooperation in your team. My name is Tabitha Liebert, and I am an HR manager, an attorney, and a conflict management strategist. And I help professional women of faith like you who are overwhelmed by workplace conflict lead thriving teams with confidence. I do that by helping you to use all 5 of the conflict styles so that you can lead your team successfully and you can lead from any room you're in. Well, why I wanted to talk a little bit about the secret ingredient to improving cooperation in your team is because many times people don't necessarily know that there's conflict in the team. I was working with a client recently who said to me she did the group program that we offer, but even when she did it, she was not quite sure that there was conflict on her team. She knew that something was wrong, but she didn't classify it as conflict. You don't always know it's conflict on your team. Sometimes you just know that there's something amiss, something that's not right, and something that's happening. You might know that things are not coming together well. You might feel that there's poor management in some areas. There might be unfair treatment, job roles might be unclear, there might be inadequate training in the department, and there might be poor communication among the team. And with all of that, it's not always necessarily classified as conflict when you're experiencing it. So today, what we're going to do is look at these instances, look at the root cause, and see how to fix it. And to do that, I'm going to start by telling you a story. A few years ago, I worked in an environment where I managed a department and I managed a team. And someone in that team did something that they should not have done. It was something that was egregious. It reflected on the team, it reflected on the department, and it reflected on the entire institution. And so when that was reported up and out, a decision was made to reassign the person. Now, I was leading the team, and so I communicated to the person that they were going to be reassigned somewhere else. And then I continued business as usual, managing my team. Now, when I say business as usual, I did meet with them. I met with the team. They continued working in the department. I continued working in the department. I communicated to them that team member A was reassigned, and then we continued working. And many years after, someone on that team expressed that they did not feel that I appreciated them and their work. And the reason that they gave was that they were close to the person who was reassigned because of an issue with conduct. And when I heard that, I had to reflect. Upon reflection and knowing what I know now that I have embraced conflict management, I understand that when that happened, there was a step that I missed. I communicated to the team member that they were reassigned. I communicated to the team that the team member was going to be working in another department. But the step that I missed was communicating candidly and transparently what happened. At the time, I thought that I was protecting the reputation of the person who was being transferred because they still had to work in the department. I felt that I was protecting their reputation. What I did not realize then was that I was leaving a gap, and that gap was filled by confusion. That gap was filled by what people imagined or thought about the situation, and each person filled that gap differently. What I could have told them in the meeting when I communicated the reassignment was that they were trusted, that they could have been relieved and reassured by understanding that what happened did not affect them. I could have candidly said, this happened, it should not have happened, and this is the result. Had I done that, the team would have been relieved. They would have been reassured, and they would have understood that the trust issue was not about them. And so this is the secret ingredient that I want to talk to you about today. The secret ingredient that helps your team to cooperate is trust. Now, every time I talk to you on Tuesdays with Tabitha, I always lead off by reminding you that your leadership role is multifaceted. It consists of an ecosystem, and that ecosystem is you, your direct reports, and also the people you report to. And so everyone in your ecosystem has their own relationships, and they're balancing their own relationships. You, your team, and the people you report to. Each person in the ecosystem balancing their own relationships. They're also balancing relationships with family, immediate family, extended family, and they're balancing relationships in society, where they worship, where they shop, where they travel. And so when you are in a team with people having different issues and different things pulling at them from all directions, you want them to come together and cooperate cohesively. You want to start thinking about how you can build trust. You want to always be thinking, how can I build trust among my team? And so today I'm going to give you 3 tips to help you build trust so that your team can cooperate and succeed. And the first tip comes from the story that I told you earlier about myself, and that is to be open and be vulnerable. So an example of this and what this would look like is if you have something to communicate to your team, you want to let them know what's happening. If you have a decision to make, you want to involve them in that decision. Even though they might not have the final say, they will feel relieved and they will feel valued that they've been consulted and they're a part of the decision. So my advice would be, if you are going to make a decision, you hold 2 meetings. You set some time in advance. The first meeting, you will speak with everyone. You're going to lay out the options that are available. You're going to talk about the things that you need to do. You're going to let them know what you have to decide. And then you're going to ask opinions. And as they give their opinions, you are going to record them. And then you're going to thank the team and let them know that you have a decision to make and you'll come back to them when that decision has been made. Once you've made a decision, come back to your team. Thank them for all they've said in the first meeting. Let them know that you have considered it. And if you can, go back over what they said and let them know how it impacted the decision that you made. And then after that, communicate your decision to the team. So be open, be vulnerable with your team. The second tip to building trust so that your team will cooperate is to work on relationships. Work on relationships within your team. Invest some time connecting with them outside of work and at work. Invest some time in having one-on-one meetings with each member of your team instead of a general staff meeting where you speak with everyone. Set up one-on-ones. If you can't do them weekly, at least do them fortnightly and just have a talk with your team member about their work, about how it impacts them, and create a rule where before you start talking about work and business, you spend some time, 5 or 10 minutes, talking about something that's personal to the person, finding out how they're doing, how their family is doing, because by doing that, they are going to be so very confident that you care about them as a person, in addition to caring about how they do their work on the team. So the second tip is to work on your team relationships and invest time in connecting with them. And if you'd like some more of those tips, feel free to touch base with me, because there's an entire scope of research that I've done as an HR manager that I'd be happy to share with you. The third tip to helping you build trust so that your team will cooperate is collaboration. And when I say collaboration, collaborate on process design. What is process design? Process design is the way you set out your office processes. Each item of work is a process, and it's really important to design those processes so that they're easy for people to follow, so that the situations are workable, the work is clear and simple, and everyone looking at it knows what they have to do. Now, when you're going to design a process, I encourage you to involve your team with it. Collaborate on that process so that it's not a top-down approach with you saying to them, this is what needs to be done, and this is how I think it needs to be done because I'm senior to you. Now, when you're going to sit with your team to work out how you collaborate on the process, do this. Break it into sections. What, where, when, why, and how. So as you sit down to talk about the process, what are we doing? What are our goals? What are our objectives? And where do we want to start? Where do we want to finish? When does it have to happen? Is it a deadline? Why are we doing this? Very, very important, because if your team members understand the why, it helps them and empowers them to make decisions when you're not there, because they know what the end goal is and they know what the purpose behind the work is. And so you don't always need to be there. You don't always need to be hands-on, because they know your why and they know the company's why. So they are able to make decisions on your behalf if you're not around. And the other one is how, and that's where you run the process by recording what has to be done. If you sit with your team and you do this, I can assure you that they are going to buy in easier because they have contributed to the process. They've been heard, they've been consulted, and they are able to collaborate. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. These are 3 steps to help you build your trust with your team so that they collaborate. Step 1, be open, be vulnerable. Step 2, work on relationships. And step 3, have a collaborative process design. So I hope you've enjoyed this show. And if there's anything that you would like to hear more of, feel free to touch base with me. You can just send me a DM or send me a message in the comments, and I'd be happy to talk with you. And if you'd like to hear more about conflict resolution and conflict management, I'd like to invite you to join our private Facebook community. It's a free private community, Your Resolution Room, our free private community where we have additional trainings and we talk more about conflict resolution and conflict management. So thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll look forward to talking with you in the comments. Have a wonderful evening. Bye now.